Hello and welcome to Council Connections. I'm your host, Christine Johnson, and on this show, we talk to those who represent you, the constituents, here in the city of Laurel. Today, we have Council Member for Ward 1, Mr. James Kole. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today, Kristen?
Good. Glad you're able to join us today. So we just want to start today's Council Connection with just finding out a little bit about you. So if you can tell us something fun about yourself.
Fun about myself? There's a lot of fun things about me, but I think the best thing that most people tell me that's fun is about my plant knowledge.
Okay.
So I do a lot of gardening. They come over, they're always asking me for advice what they should do in their yard, and always popular at parties.
Okay, green thumb, I see.
Green thumb.
All righty. So originally, you are from Pennsylvania. So tell us how you went from Pennsylvania to our city of Laurel.
In Pennsylvania, I was born and raised. Went to school at Penn State. I was at a career fair in the fall of 2011, and there was a company in DC that was recruiting. They offered to pay to relocate me down here to the DC area. I originally moved to Greenbelt, where I lived for about 6 months before I found Laurel. Laurel felt much more like home. I'm from a small town. Laurel has that small town vibe with Main Street. So I relocated to North Laurel, and about 6 years ago, I came to the city itself. Was staying temporarily. Liked it a lot while we were looking for a house. So as we were looking, we narrowed our search down until we were just looking in the city.
Okay, good. We're definitely glad to have you. And so since you've been here, you've been very active in the community. Taking a look at your bio, looks like you've been in part of different committees like the Laurel Historical Gala Committee, environmental things like that. So with you being active in the community, how did that transfer into becoming into politics?
I've always been active in the community. When I was growing up, my family was part of the church. We served on different roles. In high school, I was treasurer of like 5 different organizations. Same thing in college. I got involved in whatever community I'm in. So I came to Laurel. It really started when I was on the City Ethics Commission. I helped write some legislation. We were working on changing the financial disclosure statements for elections. And I got to see how that process worked with writing legislative pieces and the feedback different committees could give. I would attend council meetings, rewatch those that I missed in person. I would watch on Laurel TV on YouTube.
Okay.
I saw an opening. It seemed like a lot of the same people were in the city. Felt like it was time for something new, not a change, just time for a fresh infusion of ideas.
Right.
So I decided to run, talk to some of my friends that were around the city and had their support. They said that they thought I'd be great on council. So I made the decision and leaped in with both feet.
Good. We're definitely glad to have you here. New face, like you said, just a fresh perspective on things going on in the city. And so with you being new and having that green thumb, of course, you wanted to talk about the environment. So share with us some things you wanted to talk about regarding the environment.
Sure. So I went to college for landscape contracting. With that, I work in DC a lot on sustainable landscapes, whether it's green roofs, bio-retention swales, rain gardens. And I was looking at some of the stuff around the city, checking our ordinances. We did a great job at the town center. There's a lot of rain gardens. But then there's other things where we could improve. The rain gardens at the town center were not required. It would be something that as we move forward as a city, we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to have development. And if we don't put it into the ordinances to have these sustainable aspects and incentivize the developers to put that in, we won't be helping the environment. I mean, climate change is a real issue. Same with stormwater runoff. Look at Ellicott City. They had that big flood multiple years in a row. And the more we can do to mitigate the stormwater runoff from the legislative side, the better the community is going to be.
Great. Sounds like you're really working on that pretty hard.
I am.
Good. And since you are pretty active, like you mentioned, in the environment, and you are new to the council, but just share with us some of the other things that you've learned since sitting on the council seat.
Sitting on the council seat, I knew that there were a lot of meetings. What I did not realize was the amount of reading that council members need to do. There is a lot of information that's given to us, primarily through email, memos that come out. Ordinances, I mean, the one that we read the other week was about 20 pages long. So looking to see what's changing, what's staying the same, what's just updating, and then being able to retain what you're reading so that when you're on the dais, you can make the informed decision, make your statement about why you're voting for something. I haven't voted no to anything yet, but if I make a statement of why I'm voting no, I want to be able to say why I'm voting no. And then retaining that information so that 6 months from now, when your constituents are asking you a question, you have the history to what goes with that. If you can't remember what you're saying, you're giving bad information to the public.
Wow, I didn't realize it included that much reading too, but it makes sense because you got to know what's going on, right?
You do. There's a lot that comes out, and there's just a ton of information, whether it's statistics or letters from the community. There's a lot that comes to us.
So you do work, huh?
I do work.
All righty. And you wanted to share some other things that you have been working on in the city.
So in the city, I'm working on, I serve as the chairman of the Ethics Commission. I'm also on the Historic District Commission, and I'm chairman of the newly formed Pride Committee.
Okay.
On the HDC several months ago, there was a topic that came up about a large walnut tree in Old Town Laurel. And there was nothing that we could find specifically that stated that this tree needed to stay. So I worked with the city solicitor and economic and community development. We found a way to save the tree because the tree was older than the city. So we were able to cite ordinances within our code to save the tree because it's historic. So now I'm working on legislation with economic and community development to require trees above a certain size to have a permit. The other aspect to that is not just getting a permit, but when we cut down a tree, how many do you have to replace? If you can't replace them on your property, where else can we put them in the city? Because as we remove tree canopy, we need to add it back to the community.
Okay.
My first stab at legislation was working on Laurel Pride.
Okay.
I had not written legislation from beginning to end before, so I was able to work with the administration and my fellow council members, introduce the legislation, get that passed. That passed in April of this year.
Exciting.
By May, we had a fully appointed committee, and we are going to have our first ever Pride on October 8th, 2022.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And then on the Environmental Affairs Committee that I'm chairing, that committee, like many other committees, there's people that have been in place for quite a while, but there's an attendance issue.
Okay.
And if you don't have people showing up to a meeting to even get a quorum to do business, it doesn't help the city. So I am working to make sure we're taking attendance, getting the committee functioning again so that if I am no longer on that committee, because we change committees periodically as a council, we'll change around. So if I'm not there, making sure that committee can continue functioning when I'm not on the committee anymore.
Makes sense. And so have you found that, what is the relationship working with the different departments? You mentioned ECD as a councilman. How do you work with the different departments in the city?
So as a council member, we have to remember that we're not the policy setters. Most things need to run through either the mayor's office or the city administrator's office. We have the clerk that helps all of the council members, but it's been great working with the different departments. I work a lot with our clerk and the city administrator. And then on certain subjects, they will say, go ahead and talk to the department head, just keep us copied. So I've had a lot of help from them. Anytime I have a question, they're very welcoming. They want to help me learn because I'm new.
Right.
And there's a lot of institutional knowledge here in Laurel. We have some of our senior department heads have been here for 20 plus years.
Right. So that's good that you're able to learn that as a new council member and not try to come in and do all stuff new, but work with the administration that's here. So that's very good to know. And you wanted to share with us some of the things that you're doing in the community.
So in the community, I'm always out and about. It's not unusual to see me walking around Old Town. I need to get my exercise. We sit in a lot of meetings, whether it's in my professional job or on council meetings. So I'm always out in the community. I like it when the community invites me to places. So this past weekend, I went to the Emancipation Day Parade, 5K. Previously in the month of August, I worked at the PB&J event where we were making sandwiches for homeless people. It wasn't a big event that we could do. It doesn't make a dent in the population of homelessness, but it does give them just a basic sandwich. Helps them out for one day and let them know that people do care.
Right. And what about the community policing? You're trying to help promote community policing?
I love community policing. Our police department has a great community outreach. They do coffee with the cops. There's National Night Out. Anything that the cops are having or Parks and Rec, I try to attend. But that community policing is really key for the community. There's a stigma around police these days that the police are bad, and they are there to help. I did a police ride along just to see what the police go through on a daily basis. And it was really eye-opening to see what they deal with. So the more we can get the community engaged and let that teenager or let that elderly person see that the police are not a threat, so that when they do need help, they're not afraid to call. It's a very important part of our role.
Right. And that's great to know and great to have. We need to take advantage of that for sure. And just to lighten the mood a little bit, I know we talked about the fun in the beginning, and then you mentioned making the PB&J sandwiches for the homeless population. So what's your favorite way to make your classic PB&J sandwich? Is there something extra that you add to it, or what do you do?
I'm pretty plain. I like it more peanut butter than jelly.
Okay.
I like a good creamy peanut butter. And it's easier to spread it with a spoon. We found that out at I've always made it that way at my house, but even at the event when we were making them, getting the spoons out instead of the knife, you can really smash that jelly or jam around.
I have to try it. All right. So as I'm wrap up, is there anything you'd like to share with the community?
I just want them to know that they're always able to reach out to council members, whether it's myself, fellow colleagues, and even though I represent Ward 1, I'm on here for the entire city. What I do, my votes affect everyone, not just my ward. So even if you're in Ward 2, please feel free to reach out. I'll help put you in touch with the right people in the city. Like I said, a lot of the things don't fall on council members, and I want to connect you to the right people to help get the best for the community.
Very good to know. And if you'd like to share your contact information so your constituents can reach out to you.
Sure. The best way is to reach out to me at jkole, Kole, at laurel.md.us. I check my email daily. If you do need to reach me by phone, the best way to reach me is 301-725-5300 at the main office, and ask for the clerk's office.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you, James. I'm glad you were able to join us today. And I hope the people learn more about you and what you plan to do for the city.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Council Connections, where we had a wonderful discussion with Council Member James Kole of Ward 1. Remember, creamy peanut butter with a spoon. We'll see you next time.